Greetings and salutations, viewers. I am Charles from Inspire the Muse, along with my better half, Sharon.
Hello.
We recently attended BookExpo 2018, and
Woohoo!
we survived, so yay!
Barely.
And wanted to give a quick convention review and rundown, as we like to do with the conventions that we attend.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we would start with just what did we really enjoy, appreciate, or were pleasantly surprised by?
I'll start. Let me tell you, this year, the line management was so much better than last year. They changed the layout, I think, for the better.
Surprisingly.
Yeah, I wasn't too sure about it, and the one complaint that I have about it is not really a complaint, it's just, it was so far from the booth. So, like, if you wanted to drop at one time and a signing line, you weren't making it quickly. Yeah. But it really was for the better, because there was so much more room where they did put the autographing lines that, you could actually have a line in the area for a signing, and then you could have a line for the next signing behind it without any traffic jams or needing to move anybody or worrying about things stacking up. So it just, and the people they had managing the lines were really good, I thought.
I had pleasant experiences with every one of them that I interacted with.
And if they didn't know an answer to your question, they would, confirm with the info desk that was right there. But I did like that there was just so much room that things didn't back up. Like last year, it kind of backed up into the convention, and it was hard to kind of get around, and you couldn't line up too early because there wasn't enough space. Even for big authors that kind of needed to line up early, or else you're not going to get it. I can't speak for the Laini Taylor line because I was not in it. But from what I saw, anyways, and I'm sure I haven't heard anything, but from what I saw, it looked like it was managed pretty well. They were able to line up in advance. They weren't in the way. It was a huge line. It
stretched the limits of the space they had for line management.
But it was better to do that there.
Yes.
Because Javits Security would have had... they would not have been happy.
They would have had conniptions.
Yeah. So the autographing area this year was so much better, despite it being a little farther away from the booths.
For some context, for those who are unfamiliar with the Javits Center in Manhattan,
huge.
It is very large.
Does it take up a city block?
It takes more than one city block.
Yeah.
But the general layout previous years has been the entire space they normally use has been vendors with autograph booths along one wall.
Yeah. And
minimal space around it for line management beyond the current signer or autographer.
Yeah. Which
this
doesn't
year,
work well.
They changed it so effectively 1/2 of the space they utilize was for the autographing tables and the line management for those. So half of the space was used for that. About 1/5 of that half was for private meeting spaces.
And the librarian lounge.
In the librarian lounge. So they had easily 4 times the amount of space they've had previous years for line management.
But the other good thing about that is it allows you to do more table autographings.
They had, I believe, 14 tables, I want to say.
14 tables. So it allows more table signings, which means there's less in-booth signings. There's still in-booth signings, but there was less in-booth signings, so it's not as congested on the show floor. It's kind of all contained. So it was nice that they did expand that a bit to make the show floor itself less congested and easier to get around. Now, don't get me wrong, there were still lines, there was still congestion, but not nearly as bad as last year. You could actually get around the Penguin booth this year. Penguin did not have, as far as I know, and as far as I saw, any in-booth signings. They were all at signing tables,
And that worked great.
It did. Props, Penguin. You figured that out, because last year...
It worked great for the authors, from what I saw and heard. It worked great for those waiting in line, either at the current signing times or ahead of time.
Yep. Because lines form early. as we all know.
Unfortunately, that is part of the beast.
It is. But you know it, and you expect it, and it's just part of what it is, and you plan accordingly. But really, props to Penguin for fixing the major line problems they had last year. I'm happy that they did that, and I think it probably went a lot better for them.
Yeah.
And smoother, and just allowed for a better convention for everybody. Because everybody wants to have fun.
And I would expand this towards also the staff, both for BookExpo and for the Javits Center specifically, who helped with the autographing tables, with getting the right books to the right table at the right time, to the line management staff who waited at the front of the barricaded lines with the information of who is signing currently, who is signing next, and where to line up for each, and what can be done for each in regards to ticketed authors and first the line passes and all that. They were on point.
They were, and they did have, like, if there was a line for something afterwards, there was one day, I think they ran out of certain colors, but there was a colored paper in front saying what line it was. If you asked the person in that line in front of you, they probably know too, but it is nice that they did do that, so you knew what line you were standing in and for what time. The other thing I'd say is that they did have, for ticketed authors that had sold out, they did have a standby line, so that if the author had time or there was enough stuff left over, you could get into the line. So that was
seemed like those lines too were also well managed from what I saw and from what I heard.
I think they did very well. I know it was the Reimagined BookExpo, but I think that part of it really worked in their favor.
I was hesitant at the first morning we went there and saw just how big of a space they had and how it was completely separated from all of the vendors, but after experiencing it and using it...
Please do it next year. Please.
I thought it actually worked very well in everyone's favor, and everyone who worked for those lines did a fabulous job.
They did, and they were just as tired as
hat
everybody. Yeah, but they were, the ones I encountered were very pleasant. I knew on Thursday there were some questions about front of the line passes. There was some confusion of whether it was just for ticketed authors or for any signing line. But the person that was confused did get confirmation to figure out.
Yes.
Just remember, they're volunteers, so they don't always know everything, but they did do their best to find out the correct information for you, and they did straighten that out.
The ones I interacted with when I had questions gave me direct answers, or if they didn't know, they specified, I don't know, I'm going to go get my manager.
Yep.
And in one particular case, the manager didn't know, just declaratively, so he made sure to ask for clear clarification on one way or the other of how this ticket could be used with the info desk. And the line manager, separately from this, specified, like, this is how it works, you're fine. In case you have any trouble, find me and I'll help you. Yeah. That is much appreciated. Thankfully, I didn't need extra help, but it was a nice touch.
It was. And I will say, like, segueing into that, the guy in charge at several, I saw him actually walking around the floor quite a bit. And he seemed to be pretty good at making sure everything was going okay, working with the Javits security people. And I will say, like, all the emails he sent out, he always had his personal cell phone number on there to call if you need anything. So I did like that he seemed to be kind of on top of things, and if you had a problem, maybe he would have been, like, I didn't have to call him, but it seemed thankfully. But it seemed like if you did have a question, he'd be pretty, like, yeah, he's a busy man. So it might take him a little while to get back to you, but it seems like he was pretty accessible if there were questions involved. So I will give them props for kind of reimagining it in a way that makes it a little bit easier for everybody.
And at previous years, for the vendors who were across from the signing tables, I know frequently got frustrated by the amount or by the lack of line management for upcoming authors who are autographing, and lines getting in the way of their tables.
And that can be very frustrating. You're trying to work.
And I can appreciate that, having been a vendor and having dealt with that personally, how awkward and frustrating that can get. So I think this reimagining really did work in their favor.
Oh, absolutely.
In those ways.
I will say too, like, it did seem like there was less there, but in the same way, that almost worked because it was easier to get around. There were sections, honestly, I didn't hit.
I still missed certain vendors somehow, despite wandering the entire show.
There's only so much time, and I can only be in one place at a time, unfortunately, and I did have a bunch of things I wanted to do. So I didn't get to wander the floor as much as I would have liked to. But there was... I mean, some of it really is that, unfortunately, or it's just the publishing game that imprints are being bought out by big publishers. So there's a lot of mergers happening within the publishing industry. So like Harlequin used to have their own booth. Now they've been owned by HarperCollins for
a little
while now, but they were always like Harlequin had their own booth, but they were always near HarperCollins, like next to, or adjacent to. But this year they were actually a little section on the end of HarperCollins.
They were more integrated.
Yeah, because I guess, for what I read, they changed CEOs and they're kind of merging a little more. So it's not so much that that it's been downsized, but just the name of the game is that, unfortunately, the big publishers are not however, it's not unfortunate or whatever. It's just the publishing industry is what it is and things change. And so people are getting bought out and are put under the umbrellas. So you're seeing a bunch of different imprints under one umbrella. So while there may be less booths, they're still there just under...
Yeah.
Like Hachette owns a ton of imprints. But they have one booth and they do different... And each booth, like even Penguin, the imprints have their section in that booth, but they're all under the Penguin umbrella or the Hachette umbrella or Macmillan, which was kind of small. IPG, that's a huge one.
Yeah.
Ingram, another huge one. But and like HarperCollins, they just have, they're all there. It's just, so you have to kind of do your homework beforehand, if you don't know, of what imprints are under what publishing house. But they are there. It's just, they're...
I acknowledge it gets very confusing very easily. And
I really did have to do
consistently shifting landscape as, like, Harlequin, they were separately branded and for a while left to their own devices while being managed by
Harper,
the overall brand. But with the change in management, they shifted the brand hierarchy so that it was more integrated.
Yeah.
Like, unless you are part of the industry on a day-to-day basis, you're not going to necessarily realize and know that.
Well, actually, because I had said to you when I was looking at the map a couple days ahead of time, or like a week ahead of time, I was like, Harlequin's not there. And that's really weird because they normally had a big booth. There was a big sign, like you couldn't miss it.
They always did great work there.
And they always had good signings. Last year I was in a long line for like their YA imprint. And then I did some research and I realized that they're under HarperCollins and that their booth was in HarperCollins this year. So it's not that they weren't there, it's just that they got merged. But that's not...
additionally confusing as we found authors who were marketed as being part of Harlequin on the website. Like, okay, you're part of the Harlequin brand, but there's no Harlequin booth. That doesn't normally happen at the convention. Yeah. So what's going on here?
Yeah, so I had to do a little bit of research, and then, unfortunately, Book Expo, things happen. It's a huge expo. There's a lot going on. Internet, it just, things happen. But the signing was at the wrong time on the Book Expo website and app, and at the wrong place. And so I finally found, like, the little Harlequin section and asked the woman, and she handed me one of the little signing sheets that they have of their schedule for the day, and like they were going to be there. But I mean, it happens, and she was like, we kind of know, like, they can't fix it at that point. But it was fine. We worked it out. In the grand scheme of things, that was it happens. It just is what it is. And that wasn't even a
part of the beast of a convention of that scale.
Exactly. Things are gonna
everything that they need to try to integrate into their website and schedule. And
honestly,
details.
what it was is that it was a number off. because it said 2239 and it was actually at 2339.
And
so somebody just hit a wrong number.
A slightly different hour slot.
Yeah.
Like, it happens.
It happens. And it was fine. Everybody found where it was anyway.
Yeah.
So that happens in the grand scheme. But I think if you go, or if you're going to go just a couple days ahead in time, try to figure out what imprints are under what. Unfortunately, the YA genre gets really bogged down in this of like, you have, I'll use Little Brown as an example. Little Brown is an imprint under Hachette. But Little Brown is a YA children's imprint. But they're under the umbrella of the novel on social media to do like the blog posts, the Instagram posts, the Twitter. And if you don't know that, like there is no booth for the novel. They're Little Brown and they're in Hachette. But it takes a while.
But
if you don't
the
know,
social media that you see is from the novel.
Yeah, it's kind of, they did tell you like when they did the password drop what booth number they are, so that helps. But yeah, and like that's standard in YA because you have Penguin is underlined for their YA imprint, and they just turned a year old, so they're a little new. Like literally,
Happy birthday!
They did. They had their 1-year birthday party at BookCon, and I think so. Happy birthday, underlined, and Fierce Weeds is are they Macmillan or HarperCollins? I can't remember.
You did the full breakdown of research before.
I did. Fierce Reads I think is HarperCollins, and Epic Reads is Macmillan, but I could have them backwards because, as I said, no, because Epic Reads was not at BookExpo. They were at BookCon. Fierce Reads, pretty sure is HarperCollins. Don't quote me. Give me your cell phone. But anyway, so like, as I said, it's very confusing because they use these umbrellas. But if you don't know, then I don't know why Epic Reads wasn't at BookExpo as Epic Reads, because Fierce Reads had, honestly, their own booth in the Crystal Palace where they did giveaways and stuff, even though Macmillan also had, or HarperCollins, whatever one they are. As I said, it gets very confusing, and if you don't know,
continuously
like,
shifting landscape.
It is, and like I understand,
Epic Reads HarperCollins.
Okay, so Epic Reads is HarperCollins, which means Fierce Reads is Macmillan, I believe.
That would make sense.
That would make sense. But it's just so confusing, and that's not BookExpo's fault. It's just
it's part of the industry.
But I will say that their social media accounts did make sure to tell you. Yeah, I was right. So Fierce Reads is Macmillan. Are sure to tell you what booth they're at. And Fierce Reads was actually not in Macmillan because Macmillan has a smaller kind of booth. They were out in the Crystal Palace. Very obvious. Had a bunch of drops and fun stuff going on over there. I never actually got to go play with them. But they had stuff going on, so that was cool. And I know Epic Reads was at BookCon.
Sadly, we were not able to attend BookCon this year.
I do not regret any of that. Like, I did not want to be at BookCon. We did that on purpose, but
we had other plans.
We did. We went to see Anastasia instead, and it was awesome. The other thing I liked is that, and I wasn't in the lines for this, so maybe it wasn't a good thing, but I thought it was a good idea where Macmillan had, V. Schwab was signing Vicious, and Disney had Alexander Bracken signing 2 of her upcoming books. Both very big authors. They knew they were going to have a draw, and they were both in-booth signings. And in-booth signings, the lines can be absurd. Oh, Dear Evan Hansen as well was which was Hachette. And what they decided to do this year was Disney did wristbands. So you lined up for the wristbands at a certain time. If you had a wristband, you were guaranteed a book. So then you didn't have to line up 2 hours ahead of time. You just went at the specific time to line up, which I think that's, and Macmillan did a ticket drop first thing in the morning for V.E. Schwab and a couple other ones, and Harper and Hachette did a ticket drop for Dear Evan Hansen first thing in the morning. Get in line, get a ticket. If you have a ticket, you can get the book. It's like you're guaranteed a book. But I think that really helped the lines from starting 2 hours ahead of time.
That might give context for both days. Once the doors officially opened and the security personnel basically waved the checkered flag to let people through, people literally ran into the convention.
Disney,
I did not understand why, but that might help give context.
Okay, well, I'll give Disney this. Theirs were not first thing. Okay. At least not for the Darkest Legacy. Because that line was which is kind of nice. So you're not running first thing to go get it. Whereas Macmillan and Hachette, which are unfortunately next to each other, lined up. But I will say, I walked by those lines, and while people did run to get in them, and that's on you if you want to run for that, go right ahead. The lines itself were well managed, and like they were a line. It was an organized line. Unfortunately, it gets a little in the way. But there's no way to get around that it was in the way. Like, it just, it was as managed as it could possibly be. And I think it did help with the congestion on the floor, so people are not lining up 2 hours ahead of time for a signing just to get there.
That gets complicated.
Because Javits gets very, very, very annoyed with that. So,
well, it's a matter of if the line, the in-booth signing lines can get just as long, if not longer, as the autographed signing tables, which were all the way on the other side of the convention center, which worked. But those lines going through all of the other vendor aisles
block vendors and block
vendors can block the crossways, and I feel like can become a fire hazard.
Yeah,
in case of an emergency where you need to actually get out. If those lines are there, I mean, yes, if there's an emergency, people are going to actually move from those lines. But
maybe
legally, I believe they have to maintain certain
spacings
during the crosswalks or crossways in the aisles.
And I will say, because I came across the Hachette line, so for Dear Evan Hansen, they did give breaks in the line for the line, the
rows
aisles.
and aisles.
Yeah. So I wasn't in the line. I can't speak to that. It may have been more chaotic than it looked, but honestly, I've seen chaos.
Some have more ability to manage that than others, because some have the nice, convenient line break signs where line starts here, line ends here, line breaks here.
Yep.
Those are very helpful.
So I will say I do appreciate the booths that do for in-booth signing the ticket drop. As frustrating as it is to need to get the ticket and like to get in line for the ticket, it does help in the long run. And that way too, like at 9:30 or whatever, you already know if you're gonna get that book or not. So it's not like you're gonna go wait in line for 2 hours and still not get the book.
And potentially sacrifice other things on your wish list for the day.
And still not, so like you miss out on like 3 things instead. So I think it is good with, it doesn't help the rush in the beginning, but I think it does help in the long run. It may not seem like it if you're in that line.
That definitely worked in their favor this year.
Yeah. And I know, like, I feel like, Dear Evan Hansen got dropped several times, so I hope everybody that wanted it did manage to get a copy. And B. Schwab, like, I wasn't in the line, but in, like, the Darkest Legacy and whatnot, because there was only a lot, like, a certain amount allotted. So this way, like, you knew whether or not way ahead of time.
Yeah.
Because I think those were 150 or so copies, which can actually segue into our things that maybe.
I'm just going to sneak in one more nice thing that was a pleasant surprise that I haven't really fully experienced too much in previous years, just because of the way I've done the convention in previous years. But I just want to say to specifically the librarians who attended, but I will extend this to the industry professionals in general. Those that I interacted with and saw were primarily librarians in line when I was able to get into a line due to my interviewing schedule. Those were the most pleasant individuals I have ever interacted with in the industry since I have been going to BookExpo and BookCon. This was the best year I've seen them. And the community and camaraderie that I have seen with the librarians specifically in regards to helping each other find in one case I was listening to them like, I want to find this book. Okay, this isn't the same author as this book, but this book I saw, and it's the same publisher as this book that dropped over here, and them trying to figure out and reverse engineer like what book you're specifically trying to find because you can't think of the name or the author, or maybe
I don't know the name, but it's
maybe
blue.
the cover that was blue. going through their book hauls collectively, like, oh, I managed to snag this one, but we already kind of have it, or it's not really my genre, or I'm specifically the YA librarian, or I do primarily the sci-fi.
Yeah.
Like, do you know of any other stuff that I might add to my list? Like, just seeing that was great and encouraging. And I know that did extend to other industry professionals, but the lines I was in were primarily librarians in the area, and I made line friends, which was always pleasant. And it's nice to see that the industry professionals will help each other out.
Yes.
At conventions like this. And even to the extent of, like, I was in line one morning, and the autographing session beforehand hadn't finished, and I was intrigued enough. I wanted to catch the book. Like, would you mind if I got out of line and went to go grab that book while there's still time? And we watch each other. We watch each other's backs, as it were.
Yeah, I had that on the side. Yeah, I made a lot of friends in line, which, if you listened last year, like, I'm actually a quiet person, but I do really well at BookExpo because, like, book people are my people. And I will talk to anybody about books. And so I made some really awesome line friends, and like, people were genuinely helpful on the whole. At least the ones I interacted with. I saw some not so nice things, which we'll talk about. But like, I had a girl come in line, and she was very nice, and she wanted a copy of Wild Card that was being dropped at Penguin, which we'll talk about why they didn't announce that. But and I just watched her stuff, and she went and grabbed it and came back. So there was a lot of, like, if I go grab this, can you watch my stuff?
Yeah.
And, like, as long as you ask, like, that is perfectly fine. And just the people I talk to, like, they're so happy to talk about books, and they're so nice. And actually, the only reason I got City of Ghosts is because somebody told me how to get it. And same thing with Spinning Silver, is some girl told me, like, oh yeah, this is how I, got across that. So, like, there was a lot of, like, talking of, like, being helpful of, like, oh yeah, I got this galley over here, and, like, they're dropping it if you asked it. Like, so there was a lot of, like, just very helpful and nice people helping each other out. So it's kind of nice of, like, I did actually benefit from talking to people. Like, I wouldn't have known that City of Ghosts was being given away at Scholastic if I didn't talk to somebody and she told me. And, like, Spinning Silver, same thing. And just, it's just so nice to, like, talk to people that aren't cranky about being in line for so long. Because you are in line for so long and you're all tired.
We can commiserate with each other.
And, like, even the guy that I was in line with Brandon Sanderson for, where we raced to go Muse of Nightmares, we weren't competitively racing each other. It was just, we looked at each other, we saw the buzz, and he's like, did you get it? And, we both took off running, and he kind of saved room for me in the line, even though we made it about the same time. So, like, it was just, like, that was a very competitive book to get, and, like, it did not go that smoothly, but, like, for me it did because I made friends. And just, I made a friend in a line. I gave her my friend in the line pass, which I hope she was able to use. I think she was. And I gave somebody my copy of Wicked King. So, like, you just meet people, and, like, I saw that happen a lot. And it's not just me, or give tickets away that you're not going to use.
Because we had several tickets that it wasn't really our thing for one reason or another, but we knew it would be something somebody else
wants. And so that's really great. So just, talking to people and getting to know them a little bit, networking slightly, which Justin, I know you hate, but it's fun networking, actually. I made some really nice friends in line, and some people I recognized from last year. Actually, one woman was behind me in the Wonder Woman line last year. And, like, if you talk to somebody on Thursday, you see them again on Thursday, like, Friday, and they're, hi, how are you? And, like, What'd you get? And, like, one girl, I had met in the Ogre Enchanted line, and she was a youngin', but, she was really nice, and she saw me on Friday, and she was all excited and telling me about what she got, and just, so it's really cool to, like, kind of make the connections at the conventions, and if you go enough, you kind of recognize the same people and talk to them again, so it's really awesome. I will say, I tend to do better with older, but I've always done better with older people. A lot of the younger people, they go in groups, so
we're just not cool enough.
Yeah, I'm not cool enough for you. I'm sorry, but they'll talk to you too. So it's that part of it is really nice, which actually could lead me into a segue of the not so nice people and get us on our rule. So, people, we are adults in the industry. We do not need to elbow other people in the stomach. No. I'd never seen that before. And I think it is kind of rare to happen at Book Expo, but I will say, I think maybe...
I know it's happened at other conventions.
Well, no, apparently, people were telling me that at one Book Expo, somebody bit somebody over a book. So it does happen.
That seems unnecessarily excessive.
Yeah. Well, apparently it happens, but it's rare, but it does happen. And what happened was the novel decided that it was a good idea to do password drops, which I think was not maybe their best idea, and maybe next year rethink your password drops and just give a drop time and get a line going, because the massive crush of people heading for Wicked King, they were all mobbed at the table, and I got elbowed in the stomach and physically pushed and get pushed out of the way because people wanted that book, and it's the Hachette. So Hachette had to like yell at people, like form a line, and like it was just stressful for everybody. Muse and Nightmares went a little, there's still the rush of people, but the line got formed. It wasn't just the crush at the table trying to grab books. And
so maybe a decent concept for the password drops to help limit the insanity, but the initial execution was flawed.
I think they figured it out by Muse of Nightmares. There wasn't so much of a crush, but you still got people running across the floor trying to get to it, and it just... Now, it's going to happen no matter what line you're in, where they're going to run out of galleys. Like, unfortunately, you're not going to get everything, and people aren't going to get things, and you're an adult, and you just have to be like, oh well. And I know people are really upset that they didn't get the Wicked King, which that was not one of my unicorns, and I gave it to somebody who it was a unicorn for. So, like, that made me happy that I got elbowed in the stomach for it, but, like, she was really happy about it. But just, in general, for people attending, act like an adult, form a line. Like, there's no...
Respect the line.
Respect the line. Don't hurt other people. You're an adult. Like, that was just unnecessary, and it wasn't the novel's fault. I don't think they expected that to happen like it did. I don't think they expected people to make it there that quickly. Honestly, but people run. And I wasn't that far from Hachette at that time. Like, I was pretty close, and so I was towards the front of the line. I literally had to yell, let me out of line. Like, let me out of the mob to get in the line, and people were not letting me out. And, like, so I don't yell, and I didn't, like, yell loudly, but it was just, I wasn't getting out unless I vocalized that. Because I have crowd phobia. So, like, when there's a crush of people, and they're all elbowing me and trying to, like, my anxiety is going up. And so that was really bad. I think that was probably the worst experience I had at Book Expo. And, like, it didn't ruin the whole thing, but I just think next year, and hopefully they learned, because it did seem they learned with Muse of Nightmares that if you're going to do that, you need somebody there with the front of line thing and form the line behind, which did happen with Muse of Nightmares, because I got there somehow pretty quickly. And the line, it wasn't as bad. So I think the novel kind of figured that out. Thankfully. So you can learn. So you can do a password drop, but I kind of hate it. Like, it just, if you're in another line, you got to rush out of the line. Like, I don't know why. I know they were super popular, and they were limited. Yeah. So I feel like they felt that was the best way to handle that, instead of getting a 2-hour line. You know what? Maybe that is the better way to do it than saying, like, we're dropping this at 9:30, or let's say 10:30, because 9:30 you don't have that much of a time to form a line. Yeah. But you're not going to get the 2-hour line, and then Javits is going to get mad at you. And apparently they will shut your signing down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I was not aware of that.
Yes, because... Mind if I segue? Because it's a good segue. I was in a Simon & Schuster line, and, like, it wasn't Simon & Schuster's fault, really. It was just one signing went a lot longer than they expected, and kind of ran in. It happens. It does, but it ran into the other signing time a little. Like, it didn't allow the line to form without the other line being gone. So it got really tightly packed, and we had to pack like sardines. And the poor Simon & Schuster woman, like, everybody was being good. It wasn't a crush. We were doing the best we can to get a line. It was just an unfortunate situation where I think the author beforehand was more popular than Simon & Schuster expected, and also very chatty. So the line took a while, and there was not enough time to get that line cleared out. And so, we formed a line and we tried to crush in, but the poor woman, running Simon and Schuster is like, we really have to crush in because Javits was getting very cranky. They were a little cranky Friday anyways. And they would shut her down if we couldn't get the line squished more.
Again, fire hazards or emergency hazards, there's certain limits that even the fire warden can allow. Sometimes it's even out of the staff's control. The
Javits people were being... limits. Because that line, we really weren't taking up that much space. There was plenty of room to get through because it was one of the bigger aisles. So that one, I was like, we're not really blocking anything, but Javits was getting very cranky about it. And like, it was all fine. It ended fine. But I just think maybe next year Simon and Schuster don't do a signing a half hour after something is supposed to end, in case that happens and you have a sleeper hit.
This is just something that goes across all conventions that we've attended. When there's a celebrity event of any sort, you need to build in a buffer between the next celebrity event or some sort of buffer for lines for upcoming events, like they did with the ticketed or the table author signings, where they had the space for future lines. On the convention floor, around all the vendors, it's a lot harder to do that.
Yeah, there is no space for future lines.
Which is, I know it's frustrating to have to build in a 15 or 20 or 30-minute buffer between author signings in this context, but in booth, around all the other vendors, whether you know it's going to be a big hit or not, it helps to have some buffer in between events.
I'd say an hour.
If nothing else, so you can help make sure the books for the upcoming event get put on the table accordingly. And
that was
if there's any remainders for the previous signing, they can get shifted back and you can figure out when to drop those later.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and I understand, like, you want to get as many signings in as possible and get,
we appreciate that.
And we do appreciate that. But and that was the only line I saw that doubled up like that. And I really do think it was a sleeper hit.
I just want to cut in and say, for the entire convention's benefit, like, they did a lot better this year in spacing them out and moving some over to the separate tables and just overall management of the author signings and book drops from previous years. This is the best year I've seen.
I will say, that line specifically, I do think there was a half hour built in. That author...
They just didn't budget for the line being longer than they wanted and the author taking the extra time for each individual guest.
Because that author ran right up, because the signing was at, I think, maybe 2:30, whatever. But that author ran right up to 2:30 to sign. When the other signing started at 2:30. So there was... Simon & Schuster did, I think, build in a buffer, but then...
There's a fine line to dance around in that scenario of, does a handler come in and try to slowly close out the overrunning line?
Yeah.
Or do they figure out how to dance the two lines? Which is what it sounds like they ended up doing. There is no one right way to go about that,
and
unfortunately.
I think they did, like, that was just an unfortunate coincidence and it happened. So in the grand scheme of things, like, it's not a big deal. And, like, Bloomsbury, like, didn't do any signings, and they have a small little, they're probably no bigger than our table that we're working on, a small little booth, and they had several drops, and people lined up ahead of time, but luckily they had a wall on the back, so you can line up against the wall, and then there was a booth over here. They lined up against that empty wall for the overflow. Excuse me. And, like, that went relatively, as well as lines can go.
Yeah.
You're always going to get some disorganization, but just, I think, a lot better than last year. But on the subject of lines, people, again, we are adults. Don't cut the line. Do not. Okay, so I was in the Wicked King line, which, as I said, was a disaster. And the poor woman behind me was like, "Are you okay?" And, we all got frustrated because we're adults and this is not okay. And I'm standing in line and the girl, 2 people in front of me, and this is a limited release. They only had so many. there was a girl in front of me, and she hailed her friend over to come over and get in line. That is not okay. Do not do that, because everybody else has been in line for just as long. It is not fair to be like, well, I know somebody in line, so I'm going to cut the line so I can get a book. Which means somebody that has been waiting in line longer than you have is not going to get a book because you cut. And that's not fair. If you are not there in time to not be in the back of the line, like, if you are not there to be in the front of the line, that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So
we've all experienced
it, and yes, it sucks. I realize you want that book. But at the same time, that is just incredibly rude. It is rude of your friend to call you over, and it is rude of you to cut in front of other people. And we did kind of grunt at her, like, not grunt like a caveman, but like, not okay. She still got a book, but that was not okay. He had the food and the water.
I was the pack mule.
He was. Well, he had the backpack. And so I was in the Bloomsbury line and I needed a beverage. And he came over and gave me water. But he was not jumping the line. That is acceptable. He does not want a book. I explained to the people in front and behind me that he's just giving me water. And
the few times where we met each other in a line for one reason or another,
we would specify.
No one really called us out on it.
No.
I'm sure they looked at us waiting for context, but we also made it clear, like, I'm just over here. I'm not waiting for the book. I'm not going to get the book. I just want to hand her water.
Yep.
Maybe try and force food upon her or vice versa.
Yeah, that is a different story. And that's
everyone
fine.
Is fine with
and
that.
I saw, people do that. And that's fine. Because you do need to drink. And if you've been standing in a line for an hour and a half, like, hydration is really important. I didn't eat the whole convention, which was stupid. But I did try to hydrate. So that is fine. But cutting the line because your friend is farther up isn't acceptable. And I'm going to call this out right now. The biggest group of people that do this are the booktubers. The big popular booktubers on YouTube are the biggest culprits for this. And I saw them do it. Everybody saw them do it several times in the convention. And the problem is there's a gaggle of them. So there's like 10 or 15 of them. And what happens is one gets in the line and then the other 10 or 15 are doing a whole bunch of other things, finish what they're doing, and then come meet their friend in the line and cut. That is a gaggle of 10 and 15 people that have now cut a line, and that means 15 people that have been waiting in line for an hour or so may not get that book because the booktubers just run in a herd. And like, I am sure you are nice people, but that is unacceptable. Like, I know you're big in the community, you think you're cool, like, and I could say this because most of you are younger than I am, like, I know you think you're cool, but it is an industry event, and you need to follow the rules just like everybody else does, and that is unacceptable. And the problem with it is that you can contact any publisher, say you want a galley of a book, and you're gonna get it. Like, you don't need to be in that line. You can tell the publisher, I want a copy of this book, and because of who you are, you're gonna get it. Those 10 or 15 people you cut that now don't get a book do not have that same influence you have. So they're just not going to get it. That is not okay. You need to be a little more aware of, one, everybody knows who you are. And we see you doing this, and we're calling you out on it. There's a thread on Twitter about it. Like, we see you. This is not okay. And the problem is you're going to get a bad name for yourselves because you're cutting the line. And you did it several times. I saw it. Other people saw it. Don't do that. Like, you have the booktube, like, you're the huge person. You have an easy way to get this book. And I know you want it right now. But let me tell you, like me, I'm sure you have a ginormous TBR pile. If you have to wait a week or two for the publisher to send it to you, like, that's okay. But just remember, the librarians and the booksellers behind you and the teachers don't have that same influence to get this book. This is their only way to get this book. And by common decency, they've been in line longer than you. That's how lines work. I'm sorry, but I saw this several times. I heard other people complaining about it. We all were talking about you, and it wasn't very nice. Like, we weren't being outright mean and calling you names, but just, we saw you do it. Don't do it next year. Rant over, but booktube people, check yourselves.
And now you have recorded proof that my wife can do a better rant than I can.
Oh, I can. It's the sense of entitlement, I think, that you think you're all cool. And it really isn't just the BookTube people, but because of who you are, like I saw you do it. And like most of the time though, it's one friend that joins the line. When the BookTube people do it, it's 10 or 15 that join the line. And that's problematic when other 10 or 15 people that have been in line way longer than you don't get a book.
And for the viewers out there who have not attended BookExpo or a similar event or weren't able to make it this year, to help put this into context as to why this is as frustrating this year as it is, this is the first year I've seen, for BookExpo specifically, where a lot of the publishers specified the exact quantity of arcs or galleys or drops that they're going to do. Most of them were within the 150 to 300 count mark.
Galleys were limited.
I know that may seem light to some, that may seem like a lot of books to some, but when the industry event is literally thousands of attendees, 300 isn't that much.
No. And a lot of them were less than 300.
Most were at 150.
150.
It was rare to see one at 200 or 300. And I'm not sure what behind-the-scenes events shifted the public posting of the quantities. And I feel like, just from the previous events, this was actually a more limited quantity overall than previous events.
Yeah.
I don't know specific numbers, as they have not previously publicly published such numbers, and I do not have access to such things. It is just my first-hand experiences, so of course take it with a grain of salt, but it can be frustrating when there's such a limited quantity, and we all do our best to try and catch as much as we can on our to-do list and our wish list and our want list and all that. So to wait in lines and to sacrifice potential other things that we could have gotten or done or interacted with to be bumped farther back in line, potentially to the point of missing out on yet one more thing, you can understand why that might frustrate a lot of people and upset them. And when it is because of certain individuals not following the rules that everyone else is following.
You are not above the rules. Nobody is.
Not even the publishers are above the rules. No. Even they were getting called out by the convention staff, and I'm sure potentially some of the convention staff were being called out by city individuals like fire wardens who... It would not surprise me in the least if a fire warden was on premises for an event like that.
Pretty sure they have to be.
I feel like they have to be. I don't know behind the scenes rules for that, especially for something like in Manhattan where it's an entirely different state than where we live in. Yeah. That is so far outside of my knowledge.
New York is very strict about stuff like that, though.
I feel like they don't kid around with such things, so everyone has to follow certain rules, and we do our best to abide by them. Yes, they're frustrating. Yes, they may make us miss out on things, but that's the nature of the beast.
Like, I looked out where I think this year I knew it was going to be popular, and I kind of avoided it, unless I really wanted it. Because otherwise I can wait. Like, I can wait to buy it, and that's fine with me. And I also didn't want to screw up my shoulder any more than it already is. But there were a lot... as you said, I think there was a lot less galleys in general for grabs.
For better or
worse. I don't know why that decision was made. And it seems like, I know last year people were saying that there were less than the year before. Well, not Chicago, but there was less than the year. Like, Chicago, by all means, sounded like a shit show. But, the year before at New York, there were more. So it seems like they're kind of limiting the galleys. But also what's happening is you're getting more... You have Y'all West and Y'all Fest and Yalk in London or England. And so you're getting more opportunities for galleys to be dropped. So I think in ALA conference, it does big drops. Yep. And I can actually go. So, but it's not close. You got to get on a plane and then you got to ship books and so it's just easier for me to go to BookExpo because it gets very expensive very fast to ship a large amount of books because they're heavy. But so it seems like in general they're not getting rid of it at all. But they're limiting the galley drops. And again, they do take feedback every year. So if people say they want more galleys, I'm sure that's something they will work on. And I feel like that may be feedback from this year. However, I still did see people with 6 or 7 tote bags full of books. So if you wanted books, you were getting books. So by all means, there were still galleys there, but a lot of the popular ones I was noticing were limited. Like Muse of Nightmares, there was 150. The Wicked King, I can't give you a number of what they dropped, but it was small. Like I would say probably 100, just by gauging the line and who got books and who didn't. Maybe 150, but that's pushing it. So that was a small drop. And like Priory was 250 over, 300 overall. They dropped 150 one day and 150 the next day. That's not a lot, especially for a popular book. So not everybody is going to get one. And a lot of other galleys, they were very, very limited.
Yeah.
And what happened too is they weren't telling you that galleys were dropping. The Publisher's Weekly thing that you get at the beginning, which I don't have one here, but tends to show you, or last year showed you like most of, 90% of the drop times for various galleys for different
Which
booths.
was very helpful.
It's very helpful to plan your thing. And like, I still was able to plan. I went online, I found, spreadsheets and different publishers and followed them and found what time they were dropping stuff. But Penguin, you really had to ask when they were dropping stuff, because they dropped Wild Card, which was a huge book, not announced. You had to ask. And that was a crush.
This is a complete shift of how they did things in previous years.
Which I think
context.
because last year went a little...
last year was complicated for various reasons, as you can tune into previous episodes of our reviews to understand the full context of that, but I didn't really interact with Penguin much this year just because of how I interacted with the convention, which was primarily scheduled interviews with authors about their creative process, which you will see on this channel if you subscribe, as those are upcoming within the next few weeks. But there's always room for improvement and for ways of handling things, and I don't know if this one fully works.
No, though, but I will say, I wasn't in the line, but it seemed like they had a lot of wild card.
They were prepared
to drop because they knew it was going to be big. And I'm sure not everybody who wanted one got one, but
unfortunately,
it did not seem it was not 150. It was definitely more than 150.
Okay.
That got dropped. So, and then they did a signing for it also, the day after. So that one they didn't limit, which was nice, but they didn't do a lot of drops. Penguin, comparatively to last year, which is probably a good thing because they were a mess last year. So Penguin cleaned up their stuff. And let me tell you, they're very nice in that booth because I talked to one woman and she couldn't figure it out, and then she kind of figured out what the imprint was, and they're like, she's like, that's as close as I can help you. She felt so bad. And then the people at Del Rey that I did talk to were super, super nice. So props out to the woman that I talked to that spent 10 minutes with me trying to figure out what imprint the book was under and how she could help me. And she didn't have to. She did not have to be that nice. So I really will give her credit. And like the majority of people I talked to were like super nice that worked at the booths. But the limiting of the galleys, I really hope they don't do next year. I hope they fix that because that made things super crazy.
I will make one small addition to that. If they have to limit the galleys, I would appreciate if you helped communicate to the industry professionals as to why. Like, is it a matter of you can have a limited shipment to the Javits Center because of the storage utilization, because of other conventions going on simultaneously?
Yeah, there were 2 different conventions, including a pot one. Is it a matter
of you are concerned about how the ARC drops and galley drops were managed in the past and some of the potential chaos that has ensued in previous years, so you're trying to find a better balance for that?
Is it that too many are ending up on eBay because people are awful? Which I don't think that's it, because that's always going to happen no matter.
I hope that's not the primary reason. I understand that is a legitimate issue.
It is.
And don't do it.
Yeah,
don't be that person.
Nobody likes that person. Don't be that person. If you're caught, you're blacklisted. You're not allowed back. So it's not worth it for you. But yeah, I would like to know the reasoning behind it. I can almost understand the Muse of Nightmares because I was actually not expecting arcs of that period, because it is a duology and it's the last book in the duology. And if you know the book world, a lot of times like the finale of a trilogy either doesn't get arcs because they don't want spoilers out, or there's very limited. So I can understand why the last book in the duology would have limited arcs. But like The Wicked King is a highly popular series, and I don't know, maybe there is a spoiler in there that they don't want getting out, hence why, you know, there's a limited number, because it is the second one in the trilogy. So I feel like if you're not in sophomore slump, the second one kind of really ramps up to the third one. A lot of times will end on a cliffhanger. So if there is a spoiler in that, I can see why. One, because it's so popular, but they just don't want spoilers getting out, and I can understand. But I would like to know why so many were limited and that they told you. Whereas like Dear Evan Hansen, they had the ticket drop in the morning for the signed copy. Then they gave away arcs at 4:30 as an arc drop. And then Friday morning, they had a stack up to my waist of the arc. So some of them were definitely not limited. So I'm wondering if like the popularity thing is a thing and they're trying to get hype for it. And it backfired because then it just calls it the mob scene. Never underestimate the power of the mob and what people will do to get a book. Unfortunately. Like, I know we're adults, but...
I know the hype can get to us at times.
Yeah. Like, not me. I try to be human. Like, I really wanted Muse of Nightmares, but I wasn't about to take somebody out to go get it. I almost took myself out, but that was my own fault. Because I am not made to run across the Javits Center with a bag after, walking 15 miles already. But, yeah, so I'm kind of curious as to why the limited galleys and why a lot of booths did not announce their drops. Scholastic, you had to ask about City of Ghosts.
Yeah.
And they were giving out a lot of books. There was a lot happening over at the Scholastic
They had
table.
A lot of inventory. I was impressed by the amount of books that they had available.
Like, literally, they were just handing people stacks of books. Stacks of books. Which is awesome. Props Scholastic.
Yeah.
It's not they're a little, younger for me. And I don't really know anybody in that age group yet. My goddaughter is
She's getting there.
Yeah, she's way below that at the moment. She's into picture books. But, so Scholastic, they also had the posters for the Harry Potter 20th edition that they were having signed.
Really cool.
Those were really cool. They had tote bags for the Harry Potter 20th edition.
That I wish I was able to snag.
Disney had Rick Riordan signing the original cover art for The Lightning Thief. Yep. That was really cool.
They had a lot of great stuff this year.
I really try not to grab posters, but that's only because they're not coming home in one piece. One woman I saw, brilliant woman, props, bought her own poster tube with her.
That's the way to go about it. That's the only safe way to go about it.
So she's like, because I had said that, and she goes, I brought a poster tube because I come across
saw that
this
person.
Yeah. So
and I was wondering, they didn't hand those out, did they? Because if they did, they would be heroes.
Yeah. No, she brought that herself. So maybe next year, if
that would be the way to go about it.
I would kind of, because I'll be honest, like The Lightning Thief is not my thing, but I can appreciate it.
More my thing. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Outside of the targeted age range.
I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. I'm just saying I would have enjoyed it more if I mean, it was published after I was out of that age group, but maybe if I discovered it in high school even, which I'm not dating myself, so we're not going there. But, it came out, but Harry Potter I grew up with, and I would have loved that poster.
I wanted the poster, but I knew I wouldn't get it home in one piece.
Because I even had the ticket for the signing.
Be so disappointed if I damaged something like that had been autographed on the way home.
Yeah.
But to carry that safely the entire day, I didn't want to take the chance.
No. I do wish I got the tote bag, though.
Yeah.
But that line was crazy. So, and I had somewhere else to be. But I kind of do wish I got the tote bag. But the poster was really cool.
Something to think about for next year. Talking about things for next year, we hope to see or think to plan for is poster tube.
Yeah, poster tube.
At least one poster tube.
Mm-hmm. And if you go, poster tube.
Yeah, realistically, in my pack mule bag, because stuff's already sticking out of that thing anyway and about to take people out if they get in my way. Or my wife if I turn quickly.
Yeah. My eyes.
We kind of talked about it already, but something I would love to see next year is just a little more communication. It doesn't have to be much. But for, the unannounced drops, or if you have to ask, I know, have you dropped this yet? No, but we're going to let people know soon. Yeah. Okay, can you give me a time range? Soon.
Soon is not a time range.
That's okay. I can understand you want to prepare for the drop and somehow limit the mob or manage the mob. Like, you can just tell me, like, we want to better manage the lines or prepare for the lines for something this popular.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going to announce anything until like this 1 hour range.
Yeah.
Or sometime within this 1 hour block. So if you come back during this 1 hour block, your chances are better of learning when this is going to happen and what information you need, if it's a password or this or that. Like, that's all I need.
Yeah.
Just like maybe 2 sentences worth of explanation to give context as to why you cannot give the time.
Disney, I'm looking at you. They were done by that point because they had the Legacy, the Darkest
They had
Legacy.
multiple drops happening at the
Yeah.
end of Friday. Like, I can appreciate that.
We missed out on Hocus Pocus. I'm really upset about it. But it comes out in July, so I can wait.
Yeah.
Because by the time I'll get to it anyways.
It's something that we're going to end up purchasing anyway. And
Yeah.
I don't believe that was an autograph drop.
No,
so-
it was not. And that was an unannounced drop because people
Yeah.
were walking around with it. I saw people with it, so they had dropped it at some point and they
Yeah.
didn't announce it. Announce your drop. Like, yes, I talked to people, but by the time I asked somebody, where'd you get that? Like,
that
the
drop
drop
had
was-
already happened.
happened. So maybe they said on Twitter I wasn't following
Maybe we
Disney.
just missed it.
I wasn't following Hyperion on... It's Disney Hyperion.
Yeah.
I was not following them on Twitter, so maybe next year I will be more diligent about getting notifications on Twitter for various publishers, because that seems to be the way they are shifting, and I understand.
If that's how you want to go, okay. I'll
Yeah.
follow that. I'll follow those rules as part of the industry. But even 2 sentences worth of extra communication would help better give context and, like, okay, I will
woman
follow
at
your
Disney
rules.
was very nice. The
Yes.
guy, not so much. I will say the one thing that annoyed me is that the popular booktuber was walking around with that book and she totally just got it from that woman because of who she was. And that's not fair. Either make everybody wait or give it out when asked. I don't care who. Now, they do it to the authors, and I will
Yeah.
give the authors a pass because they have places to be at certain times.
Yes.
Like, they need to be at a panel at this time, and they need to be out there signing at this time. That is different. But the booktubers are no different. And I know it sounds like I'm anti-booktuber, and I'm not. I watch these people. I do enjoy some of their videos. I respect what they do for the industry. But at the same time, they're no different than the librarians and the teachers and everybody else there. They're not special.
We deserve just as much of an opportunity to enjoy these books and these experiences as you
they
do.
do.
We appreciate all that you do for the industry and to raise the visibility of these books and these authors and these
Yeah.
publishers. I respect that. I appreciate that. I want to be part of that. That said, we all want to enjoy all of the stuff from BookExpo and BookCon and all of these conventions just as much as you. We do not have as much pull directly with these representatives at these publishers or these authors that you may have. So that is where we get frustrated. When
Use your influence for good, not evil. So that's just frustrating of like, you shouldn't get any special treatment at BookExpo. At BookCon, it's totally different because you're there you're not part of the industry there. You are a part of the attraction. And granted, they're not grabbing things at BookCon. But, well, I'm sure they do. I'm sure you guys do.
by all means, enjoy BookCon.
Yeah. We don't, but by all means you do. But when you're at BookExpo, you are part of the industry. You are not special.
You are no more special than the rest
of us.
We are all special because we get to be part of this industry.
Exactly. Like, we have opportunities that the general public doesn't, and that's great. But you are not any more special than anybody else there. You do not get special, preferential treatment because you are a booktuber. You already get that preferential treatment by what you get from the publishers and the kickbacks that you receive, because we know you get paid, and that's fine. That you need to make money, and that's great. But at this event, you are not any more special than a librarian that's there or a teacher that's there. And I deal with high schoolers on a daily basis. Like, you get to make videos. Like, I know that's frustrating too, but yeah, let's just high schoolers. Yeah. And let me tell you, they're not all bad, but there are some days where you want to jump out a window and trying to get them to read. So if I can find books that my students are really going to enjoy, that's invaluable to me. And I don't have the pull with the publisher to get them mailed to me. But
we would love to get to that
we would
point,
love to get to that
admittedly.
point, but I'm just a lowly little teacher over here. Be honest, I'm not going to get to that point, but I still need to find these books to get them in the hands of the people that they need to be in. Like, my students, most of them actually do enjoy young adult literature. And if I can find books that they're really going to enjoy, that's invaluable. So while I may not have 50 million followers, or like not that many, but whatever, I don't have that many followers on YouTube because I don't have a YouTube channel. But like, so yeah, I may not have that, but I do have, 20 students in the classroom at a time and 150 students overall. Like, that's still a pretty big influence on the day-to-day basis. And especially like the high school librarians, they're invaluable for getting books into the hands of kids.
Most of the librarians I interacted with at this book expo were for public schools.
Mm-hmm.
And shout out to you guys and girls for all that you do. Exactly.
So we all deserve to get books in our hands to get them to where they need to be. And like, I enjoy them too. Don't get me wrong. But there's definitely books that I have read that I've gotten that are not for me. But I know that they're going to be for somebody. Like, I can, I've had students where I'm like, this student will really love that book. Because as a teacher, I get to know them. And like, that's great. But we're all there to promote these books and to get them in the hands of readers. And just because you may have a lot of followers on YouTube does not make you any better than us teachers and librarians and other industry professionals or their retailers. It's just, everybody is there. And they're just as special and have every right to be there as much as you do. So please just kind of be aware of that. And be respectful of other people that are there. And I know, you're social media famous, but
I will put this out there. To the booktubers who could potentially see this, I have no idea what behind the scenes logistics you guys and girls deal with out there to do what you do and to handle what you handle. If there are certain aspects that we are simply not aware of because we are not part of that subset of the industry, please reach out to me. I would love to learn more about these logistics so I can better understand the context of all of this. Contact@inspirethemuse.com. By all means, reach out to me via email. Help me better understand this so when situations like this arise, we can better explain it on our channel as well and to the general public. All that you do and all that we do and how we can help each other to help raise the visibility of all of these books and authors and publishers.
We should all work together. Like, the end game is always the same, despite if you have 5 million followers or 5. Like, your end game is...
Or even 1.
Or even 1. Or none. Because I'm a teacher, I don't have social media for... Well, I do have social media, but, like, I really hope my students don't find me, so it's very well hidden. Because never, ever let a student get your social media handle. A+, pro tip. So, like, working together is kind of what we'd want to work toward. And as I said, I'm sure you're lovely people, and I enjoy watching your videos. At the same time, nothing excuses cutting the line. But...
Or elbowing in the stomach.
That was not a booktuber.
I know, but just in general context, that is also inappropriate.
I would like to say, I don't think they would do that. Like, they seem like, you guys seem like really decent people. I do not think they're going to elbow me in the stomach. And I don't even think you guys mean it maliciously. I think it's just my friend is here.
It's the heat of the moment. Yeah. And
everybody does it, but the booktubers, it's just because there's so many of you, it's easy to see. And it's frustrating. Because there are so many of you, that means that many more people aren't going to get the book. But, like, you seem like decent humans. I'm not afraid of you taking me out at any time. But it's just, everybody needs to, I think, work together for the same end goal.
Yes.
And I do appreciate that, like, they are very amenable if people come up to them and recognize them to talk to them. So that's, again, if you're not on your way anywhere. And that's understandable. Because, like, I literally almost ran directly into Lainey Taylor.
Several times.
Like, I kept on running into Lainey Taylor on the floor. One time, almost literally. But the other times, like, I kept seeing her. And she was, like, right there in front of me. And I just felt awkward, like, going up, so I didn't. But apparently she is very amenable to that if she's not, and, if
she has the time.
She'll tell you that she's on her way to somewhere, but she's very nice about it. Otherwise, she will talk to you, which she did. I saw her talking to several people.
That would definitely be something for next year if we could. It's not so much coordinate, but if the opportunity arises that we get to talk to her for even a minute, 2 minutes, that would be great.
Yeah.
Just to explain how much she means to both of us.
Yeah. I also saw V. Schwab on the floor. Victoria Aveyard. So they're out there and they do, by all means, be respectful if you walk up to them. But it does seem like 90% of them, I'm sure there are some that just don't want to talk, but it seems like 90% of them are very open to talking. Lee Bardugo especially is super nice. Brander Sanderson, again, super, super nice if you go up to him.
Yeah.
Just, be respectful. But that is cool aspect of Book Expo is just you're walking around the floor and whoa, Lady Taylor. Or, oh, V. Schwab. That's not something you get to see every day. And just authors...
Even when in the industry.
Yeah, exactly. Even when in the industry. That's just really cool. Apparently Sarah J. Maas can be a little... not standoffish, but she's shy. And also because she's so big. As being
socially awkward myself, I can understand the whole being shy in large groups.
The problem is, too, she's so big that it gets a little crazy. So, unfortunately, her popularity has grown so much. And that was kind of... she's super pregnant, so she wasn't... as in, she's popping any day now. So she wasn't there, and they didn't have any Soul Stealer stuff. Yeah, I didn't... but they did have the big banner. There's 2... huge banners for...
I want to know who can print something to that size and how you transport it.
And get it up there.
And where do you store it after?
And what happens if it rips?
Don't be under it.
No, but I mean if you're putting it up and it rips.
Don't be under it.
They did have
Death by banner.
They had some really cool banners this year. Just a fun little anecdote. People were using Naked Sally Field as a landmark.
Hashtag even.
Yeah, it was a hashtag this year. You didn't see everything, but it was Naked Sally Field, and she was 10 feet tall. So that was kind of funny. And apparently she was signing. I did not see her. I did see Martina McBride. She was right in front of me, and that was a very small line, but she was only signing little cardboard things. She was not actually signing her cookbook. And that was
Which is a shame.
That was not well advertised, well communicated.
I didn't look too closely into it or into too much detail, but I too expected the actual cookbook.
Or at least
which is why
sample.
It was on my long list, not my short list, but if the opportunity arises and I can grab the cookbook, that would be cool.
I was going to, because it was a short line, and I was right behind it. As in short line is there was one person in line at that time. And she was taking photos with everybody and seemed like a very nice person. My dad loves Martina McBride, and Father's Day is right around the corner. So I was like, she's signing the cookbook, Father's Day done.
And he loves to cook.
So this would have been
perfect.
2 birds, 1 stone. But unfortunately,
it was just promo material.
And it was going to get squished. So, and my dad really is not going to care about a promo material with a signature on it. Cookbook, however, he would have been all over. So maybe...
when it comes out, though.
I will buy it for Dad for Christmas. It just won't be autographed. Sorry, Dad. I did get a picture for him, though. And then my personal favorite moment of the convention is Megan Mullally and Nick Offerman did a panel. And, not to give too much about myself, but Will and Grace is just was a huge part of my life for a while. And I get very emotional about it. And, it's not too much of a stretch to say what, that show saved my life. So getting to be able to see Megan Mullally I was tearing up. That was huge for me. And I didn't get to meet her, and that's okay. She was 10 feet in front of me. And that just made...
And a delight.
She was a delight. They were hilarious together. Apparently, people had gone to the author breakfast, the adult author breakfast. She was hilarious. They were funny, very nice people. So, that was great. And it's good to hear when, your idols are super nice people in real life. So that was, it wasn't even a book moment. They do have a book coming out, The Greatest Love Story Ever Told. They read the intro, and it was hilarious. So, by all means, if you love Megan Mullally and Nick Offerman, or one or the other, check the book out. It has pictures in it. They're going to be in full color. They're not in the ARC.
Oh, nice.
Apparently, they dropped the ARC, and I missed it.
I didn't even hear anything about that one.
Again, it was an unannounced drop. Ugh. Unannounced drops were killing me this year, because I'm not
You can't
fast.
keep on top of everything.
I am not fast. And I am in, I had pretty much every hour scheduled, and things I missed because
as much as I did.
I cannot be in 3 places at once, no matter how much I would love to be. So, you make the best of it, and I think overall, this year went much better.
Yeah.
Than last year.
Something I want to do for next year is effectively what I did this year. I did my research of who I wanted to network with this year. I reached out to them ahead of time. I went through all the proper channels, and I scheduled author interviews ahead of time, giving specific blocks for specific booths or publishers to make sure I didn't double up or anything awkward, giving myself time also to network on site with other people, which we were very successful with, more so than I expected, which was fabulous.
Networking. And you met Ann Wheaton.
And I got to meet Ann Wheaton, who was a delight. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, because we are having an interview with her about her book coming up soon. And I want to purchase a copy for a child. You are free to choose which child, because
2 copies, 1 for each.
There you go. It is a delightful book called Piggy and Pug, and I want to purchase it and support it because she was a delight.
She is. I will say, I really, I was so much pain. I cannot even describe the amount of pain I was in. Pain I have never felt before.
In muscles we didn't know existed.
I permanently screwed up my shoulder last year, so I exacerbated that this year, even though I tried to be good. But I still had an excellent time. I can't wait till next year. I say this, and then next year I'm going to be like, I hate New York City. I hate this. I hate everybody. Get out of my way. I really hate New York. It stinks. Literally, it smells. It's disgusting. I feel disgusting. I cannot shower fast enough, and as a germaphobe, but
we live in the country. We are country mice at heart. We enjoy visiting New York for these events and for Broadway shows and stuff like that. But
go see Anastasia. It was good.
Short stints for us, unfortunately.
Yeah,
we can't do it anymore.
No.
It's not for us.
Friday night at the hotel room, I literally couldn't take my sock off, and I was crying because I could not lift up my leg to take my sock off. And I am not that old.
I am older.
Yeah, but walking around with just the bag on your shoulder, on your feet all day, and the pressure on your hips, I'm not a spring chicken anymore.
Another thing for next year.
Hydrate.
Well, hydrate. Have nutrition of some sort.
Yeah, I didn't eat. Next year I'll eat.
Yeah. Something I apparently need to do for next year is to coordinate with my personal doctor ahead of time to get a doctor's note to show that I have previously had 2 herniated discs in my lower back and cannot necessarily carry over 40 pounds of weight for long intervals. So in my case, I have a wheelie backpack. It's a backpack that doubles as a wheelie bag when necessary. This is the first year I did not use it as a wheelie bag because I did my best not to do it, but if you need to use a wheelie bag for such events, a medical sticker, in this case, sometimes bracelets are involved or special lanyards, they specified you need a medical doctor's note to show that you are justified in getting a medical badge to use extra permissions and such, like wheelie bags and whatnot.
And they are good if you do have these issues and you have a doctor's note.
Otherwise, those bags need to be checked at bag check.
Cranky lady.
I can appreciate that.
I
have had my feet run over by wheelie bags and suitcases more times than I can count. So
it's never intentional, but it still hurts.
I do not try to circumvent that rule by any means. I wanted to get the medical sticker. I was eventually told where to get it and how to get it, and a very nice woman there who is an angel was able to get me one despite me not having a doctor's note on hand.
Yeah.
So next year I want to do that ahead of time so I can follow their rules and abide by them and show, I don't want to have to use the wheelie bag part because even for me, it's frustrating to have to navigate that through crowds.
It's actually more frustrating to wheel the bag than it is to carry the bag.
If I need to use it, if for whatever reason I tweak my back the wrong way, my pain level goes from a 1 up to an 8 to the point where I can almost barely move if I do it just wrong.
Yeah.
And that'll last for several days. I can't afford that. Literally, I can't afford the medical bills for that.
Yeah.
So if I need to use the wheelie bag, I need to be able to. And that is the way they want me to go through the proper channels to do so.
And that's fine. It's been communicated now, it's not... I will say to Book Expo, maybe on the site, make that a little more clear.
I would appreciate more clear corrections or
directions
for that.
Yeah.
So that I know ahead of time without having to be told on site.
Because not everybody is able-bodied. And you just need to be a little more aware that not everybody has the physical ability to do some things and to be more accommodating for that. Or more straightforward of how you can be accommodated.
Yes.
Because you can be. They just don't make it clear on this website on how to do that.
Yes. And for those who have seen last year's review and my commentary towards how they handled this, or lack thereof, this was handled much better than last year.
Well, that was BookCon.
I appreciate all that was done for me and by the staff.
Yep.
I understand the staff was doing what they were told, and they were trying to keep the rules abided by, so I respect that. I just need to be better prepared next year is all.
Yeah. I will say one last comment. They need to work on the line first thing in the morning.
I do look forward next year to seeing better initial line management for when the doors open at 9 a.m. and the general populace are allowed to go in. We are more or less adults. I know we don't always act like it or sound like it, but we are generally adults. We can act like adults and respect a line that has been serpentined for space or managed accordingly to be able to enter the premises accordingly and safely. Unfortunately, that was not what happened this year, and thankfully, from what I've seen and heard, there were no initial injuries when the doors were opened and everyone was free to just enter en masse.
I got bopped into a plastic thing that
I did almost take down one of the security barriers because I was unfortunately shoved into it and I almost lost my balance.
The poor security guard that saw it, because there's a security guard right in front of me, was like horrified, and I'm like, I'm fine. Like, it's not, but the problem was they had made a line, and we got there early because of the way the train schedules go.
It worked in our favor.
And so we were there very early, and we were front of the line.
Effectively. Within the first 40 people, easily.
I'd say even within the first 20.
Yeah. Of thousands.
Of thousands. Well, first 20 on that side of the Javits.
There were multiple entrances.
Exactly. But, we were at the front of the line, and we had been there for a long time. Made a lovely line friend.
About an hour and a half to give context.
Made a lovely line friend twice. She was in the same line, same space, who actually is from, like, 2 towns over. So that was kind of cool. But, they serpentined the line around to save
for space management.
For space management. So we figured, serpentine line, you're going to take the front of the line and just everybody's going to file in.
As they've done in the past.
No. What they did was had everybody turn around
to face the entrance.
To face the entranceway and open the gates. And everybody went. And what annoys me about this is y'all know that you were not there at 7:30 in the morning. Y'all know you were at the back of the line. That is not the way to be.
Or middle of the line, depending on where in the line.
Y'all knew where you were in line. Y'all knew you weren't waiting as long as everybody else was. And you needed to respect how a line works. But unfortunately, the Javits did not facilitate this well. But just for future reference, you know when you arrive in line. You know where you are in the line. Just be an adult and respect that. Because my high schoolers can figure this out, so can you. And kindergartners can figure this out. And then, Friday, they made it worse. Because they legitimately they didn't even do a line. They made us a mob.
Literally. They helped support that, unfortunately.
Because I could not possibly get any closer to the poor girl in front of me.
Short of actual physical touching.
We would have been like conjoined twins. So they squished us in like sardines, getting everybody closer, and then opened the gates and just... But Javits did that. So they need to work on their initial line.
I am admittedly curious as to what their thought process was for that.
How did they think that was going to go? Because we all knew how that was going to go.
Because we saw that, and all of us around us were aware of how this was going to go down. Yeah. And I have a feeling some of the people up front who I saw running in might have been doing so they didn't get run over. Because even I double marched it.
Yeah, exactly. You knew if you weren't moving fast, you were getting trampled by
I did my best to find a quick side aisle to go down to get out of the initial rush.
Yeah, I don't know what
I was concerned about that because I don't know how fast I could have been with my bag and my back.
Yeah. So I don't know why Javits decided that was a good idea, but it wasn't. So hopefully next year we work a little better on the...
That said, thankfully, from what I've seen and heard, no one was injured.
Nope. But
they
could have been.
Maybe some pride.
Yeah, some pride and maybe your toes.
Yeah. But I feel like there could have been better ways to potentially manage that, even with multiple lines up front to coordinate, because I know realistically everyone in line had a badge at that point and had paid to play to attend at that point. But with that type of en masse rush inwards, there's no way that amount of security could have possibly looked at every single badge to make sure that those were actual legitimate attendees for that day.
No, though. You might have a badge, but what if it was just a Thursday badge?
That's why there's no way you could have managed to look at every single badge to confirm it was for that day or that entire 3-day span. Like, I'm hoping no one took advantage of that inadvertently and was able to slip through the cracks, but the potential was there.
Exactly. The thing is, you don't know if they're going to check they check badges on the floor. So, you will get caught. But by then, it's almost too late. But yeah, so hopefully next year that's something that gets fixed. Because I know somebody said, the Javits Center, the head of security, retired. So these are all newbies. So they're kind of learning. So hopefully this was a fun learning experience. And
if this was your first year as staff for that, I apologize for anything that we did that seemed inappropriate. I'd like to think that we were relatively appropriate for the line management and everything that we did to not get crushed or crush anyone else. I hope you are able to find more effective means of line management in the future for such events. And keep doing what you're doing to keep us safe as best you can, because it is appreciated.
It really is. But overall, I had a really good time. I'm ready not to go back to New York City for a while. But I'm excited for all the books I got and how relatively... you're never going to have a convention like this that runs smoothly in all aspects. It's just, I think, impossible.
For a fully reimagined BookExpo, as they were branding and marketing it and communicating it, I think a lot of the reimagining actually worked in their favor. And I'm hopeful for how it goes next year and how they streamline some of the processes or fix things that they might have concerns about. And I really do want to go again next year.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely there were some aspects of it that could have been fixed, but that's just all conventions have their kinks and things that don't work. And especially, as you said, with reimagining it,
it's almost like their first year all over again. So live and learn. Yep,
and find what works, find what maybe didn't work this year and tweak it. And so we had a lot of fun. I definitely do it again. I blew out my shoes. Completely wore through the bottom of my rubber soles, my sneakers. So R.I.P. shoes.
Worth it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, worth it. But it was a lot of fun and. I'm ready for bed. But
dinner first,
yeah. And my muscles are going to be sore for a week. But
still worth it.
Yeah, definitely worth it. And would do again. And
for industry personnel who were unable to make it this year or in past years, I hope to see you in the future at BookExpo 2019, BookExpo 2020, whenever you're able to make it, because it is a fabulous event for the industry. They are making great strides towards making it more appropriate for every style of industry attendee, either retailer or vendor or booktuber even. Yep. And it's definitely worth attending if you can. If you are the general populace who are not part of the industry yet, that is BookCon.
Which, for what I have seen online, they just finished up a couple hours ago. Looks like it went a little bit better than last year. They're working out the tweaks and kinks. Because it is a relatively new event, actually. Yes. So it takes a couple years to kind of get the growing pains out, but I think they're doing a good job. Unfortunately, because there were panels I was really interested in going in, I can't do both. I don't physically.
The way our lifestyles currently work, we do not have the physical stamina or resources to attend both BookCon and Expo, or BookExpo and then BookCon consecutively.
Yeah.
It's just no longer feasible for us.
No, we have dogs, we have we have a house. It's just...
we have work.
Yeah, we have work. But it is, if you are not in the industry, like, go to BookCon, you meet
if
all
you
these...
have the opportunity
If you have the opportunity. They have all these authors, all these great panels, because honestly, I don't care about so much the, the book signings, and as much as I do care about the book signings.
That is a thing of BookCon, though.
Yeah.
There are
Billions
author
of
signings there.
And I would love to have hit some of them up, but they have some really awesome author panels at BookCon that I would have loved to have gone to. So, yeah, there's just an endless amount of bookish things to do. So if you're not in the industry, by all means, check out BookCon. And
it is much more cost effective.
It is definitely more cost effective, a little more crazy, but you'll meet so many people that are interested in the same things that you are that it's awesome. And by all means, if you're at BookExpo next year and you see us in line, come make friends. I like line friends. I will talk to anybody about books. It's great.
Talk to us about books, about penguins, about
penguins,
dragons, dinosaurs,
what have you. I talked to several teachers. I'm always up to talk education. And actually bounce ideas off of people, because you get different perspectives that you don't get. Librarians are awesome too. So, like, I will talk to anybody about books, penguins, what have you. Books and penguins. Books on penguins.
Books written by penguins.
There was a book on penguins and I missed it. But it was a picture book and it was about a penguin. And so, yeah, I missed that one, unfortunately. But, but
we will purchase it.
We will.
To support the author.
And give it to my little goddaughter. But, so, hopefully we will see everybody at BookExpo 2019. Not get elbowed in the stomach.
Or any other conventions that we are attending in the future.
Kineticon this year.
Yep.
You're attending. I'm not sure if I am or not, but...
I'll kidnap her at some point. Don't worry about it. And to all the viewers out there, by all means, as we've mentioned multiple times already, subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you can see the upcoming author interviews that we had on site.
He has a lot of fun ones.
We had a blast. We got to talk to multiple publishers, multiple authors. We got to break our cameraman a couple times. Not physically, don't worry about that. He is fine. But we had a blast. And we hope that you enjoy all those videos. We hope you enjoyed this video. And it helps you check out all the other stuff that we get up to. If you want to check out other author interviews that we do off-site, as we are doing multiple interviews with industry professionals, go check out InspireTheMuse.com, as that has all of the podcast episodes with various industry interviews, all of the various articles that we post, various resources that we have for artists of all styles and flavors, and everything else that we get up to, all the crazy shenanigans. By all means, check it out. If you want to talk to us on social media, we're almost everywhere. Facebook.com/InspireTheMuseLLC. We're over on Twitter at TweetTheMuse. We are on Tumblr at Tumblr.com. And if you're watching this, you've already found our YouTube channel, but you can also just search Inspire the Muse, and we will pop up.
And if you want to connect with me, I have a Bookstagram. It's been inactive because of just some life stuff that's been going on. But I am starting up again. I'm going to, post all the books I hauled and reviews and pretty pictures. I am the Literary Penguin. My profile picture is a penguin, so that is me. And I'm also on Twitter as _penguin. We'll put the link up.
Yep.
But by all means, if you've got some of these and you're excited about them or you want to talk books, talk to me. Or if you saw me at the convention and I made line friends with you, please connect. I'd love to be friends on social media.
Continue the conversations.
Yes. I love to talk books, so anything. So that's it.
And until next time, viewers and listeners, as always, go be creative. Go read a book. Go to a convention.
Wear good shoes.